Hey, welcome to Mikey's Video Game Madness. Today we're playing Half-Life 2 on the PC. I'll be choking a lot because I'm still sick. Yes, I saw the doctor. Apparently led into bronchitis to the point where this dry cough is making me cough up a little bit of blood, a little TMI, but just so you have mercy on this video. Um, just for a second, let me take you back and tell you how my life got flipped, turned upside down. Alright, little Fresh Prince of Bel Air for you. Very emotionless. Anyway, this is probably my favorite PC game of all time. I probably played it on every system except maybe the Macintosh, because who the fuck plays games on Macintosh? Since I'm talking to YouTube, probably a lot of you, I apologize. I don't know anybody who personally plays on a Macintosh. The last time I've actually used a Macintosh was when I was taking a film class in college, and they used Macs to edit video, and I was really frustrated because I kept on trying to click the right button on the mouse, and the Macintosh has only one button, and yeah, I look like a complete fool. So this is Half-Life 2 on the PC. I actually added a mod so the lighting's a little bit better. So you get like some bloom lighting from some of the lights. There's more self-shadowing and real-time shadows. It's very subtle. There's actually an overhaul mod, but I don't really like it all that much because they actually changed the character designs quite drastically, where they like over sex like Alex, which is the girl that just disappeared right there, and the characters don't look like how they look in this game. You could update the models and make them still look good, just like in Half-Life 1. Even though these models might seem tame by today's standards, these were upgraded models of some of the older. Alex is obviously new. But like the scientist and Barney over there, they were all in the first Half-Life, and they upgraded their models quite well. This is actually the third redesign, because there was actually like an HD pack when the original Dreamcast Half-Life that never came out got canceled last minute because the Dreamcast got discontinued. But there's actually a finished game you could buy. They actually redid all the models. Gearbox Software actually worked on that, if you were curious, and then they transferred it to PlayStation 2 that had this weird two-player mode that nobody ever talks about, and it's not on PC, but it's weird because PlayStation 2, I think it could, but I think they were still learning how to program for it. Couldn't back then they couldn't handle like rendering the hands and stuff for the first person mode, so you just had a crosshair for the split screen mode, and it was like this puzzle based two-player game of the first Half-Life. But it was a pretty decent version, and I think that has the most advanced models, but some other stuff was like taking out like some of the textures, maybe the sizes of the levels. I don't know. There was some compromise as well as some additions, but some of that carried over to the PC HD pack. So anyway, to take you back, I was 18 years old. I recently graduated high school. I was going to college. I was working to pay to go to college at a local grocery store, and it was probably shortly after Christmas. So I can't remember if it was December 2003 or January 2003. But anyway, I don't know how we got into talking to games. There's this produce guy. I remember his name is Tom. Hopefully he's still alive. He's an elderly guy. I never met an elderly guy that liked video games. But for whatever reason, we became friends in a awfully short amount of time. Like when you went to the bathroom, there was like this hallway, and there were all these nice paintings and stuff like that. And I was going to art school at the time and minoring in psychology. And anyway, so I was impressed by the paintings, and I thought they just like bought them or whatever. But they were actually real paintings. I just thought maybe that they just got them from like some art show or something. I don't know where the grocery store buys their shit from. But anyway, I found out that this dude Tom painted them, and somehow we got into playing video games. I don't know whether he saw me playing like a PSP or a Game Boy in the break room or reading a video game magazine. I don't remember the specifics, but I remember him telling me that he was really into PC gaming, and I was like, that's awesome. So something that's very inaccessible to me at the time. I had like a really bare bones PC. I got whatever was left over that was old that my parents had that they didn't use anymore, and it was awful for playing games. I think the only game I could actually play on it at the time was The Sims, and he's like, it's easy to upgrade and all this stuff. So he helped me upgrade my PC and all of this stuff because I really wanted to play Call of Duty, the first one, which was a pretty big deal at the time because I was a huge Medal of Honor Allied Assault fan. And then Medal of Honor Pacific Assault was about to come out. I think there was just a demo out at the time. But anyway, for Christmas, his son got him Half-Life 2, and for Christmas he helped me upgrade. So it must have been after Christmas, because he said he had to finish Half-Life 2, and I got my PC upgraded and got all the parts. It was still a little bit more complicated than it is now back then, but that's how I got into PC gaming for a short amount of time, was just talking to this guy Tom, and we shared our experiences. We liked a lot of similar games. It's interesting to hear like an older person, like I mean older, this dude was like in his 60s or 70s person's point of view of games. Like he just loved everything to do with games. It didn't matter what it was. He just appreciated the interactivity, the art of it all. He very much so looked at games as art. It didn't matter like what you played, what type of game it was. If it wasn't his thing, he was just still impressed by like the graphics or like the work that got put into it. I never saw anyone else so enthusiastic. I mean, he would go as far as talking about the reflections of the puddles in Call of Duty 2 when that came out. But his son got him Half-Life 2, and he said, this game's amazing. Wait till you see this. I'll let you borrow it as soon as I finish it. And I was like, alright. I played the first Half-Life. I was a pretty big fan of it. I always felt like it was really groundbreaking, but towards the end of the game, it felt like really standard fare first-person shooter. It was pretty generic as you went further into the game. That's my personal opinion. If you get butthurt over it, I apologize. I guess you'll have to use baby wipes until the tenderness goes away. But anyway, yeah, so I was like, yeah, I'll look into it. I saw some demos. Demos always looked way better than the actual game does, although this looks great. This was such a good-looking game, and the fact that it ran on any configuration system quite well, like, even on my system, I built like a mid-range system for the time, you know. I think I spent $250 back then to like upgrade it to play modern games, and back then modern games would be like Half-Life 2, Far Cry 2. It didn't run Medal of Honor Pacific Assault too well, but that game was like, I don't feel like it was optimized for the time. Now you can play it no problems or whatever, but it played most of the games I really wanted to play, like Call of Duty. That like blew my mind. Actually beat that fairly quickly because I was obsessed, because Call of Duty felt like the real sequel to Medal of Honor Allied Assault, and Medal of Honor Allied Assault is probably my second most favorite PC game. So I just ended up playing this, and even though like all the little things happen in the background and all that stuff seems pretty paint by numbers by now, like before this there weren't really any games that had this kind of world building atmosphere, and the fact that everything's explained to you through just experiencing it. And Half-Life 1 did a lot of the groundwork, and I think games like the original Red Faction followed suit and was really inspired by Half-Life 1, because Half-Life 2 was obviously out yet. But it was just such a beautiful game. It didn't have like the most intricate textures or anything, but I loved how everything was opened up, because Half-Life 1 basically took place basically on this laboratory facility. There wasn't a lot of variety, and the the facial animations and everything were so believable. Even to this day, they look a lot better than some of the non-motion captured facial animations that I've seen in a lot of games, and it controlled well. And even though there's not a whole lot of bump mapping or normal mapping, which is like a 3D type texture with like lighting, it's like when you see water and it kind of looks real with the reflections. That's an example of normal mapping. It's such a standard feature now. I'm worried that if I say normal mapping or bump mapping, it's like nobody knows what it is anymore, because it's like in every single game that comes out. But the PlayStation 2 wasn't really capable of it. I think the Path of Neo was like the only game that actually used that technique, and that was pretty cool that Shiny was able to do that with software. The only consoles at the time that were able to do it was Nintendo GameCube, which was a pretty powerful system for as kid-friendly as it was, and I don't think it got the recognition that it did. But if you look at games like Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 and Rogue Squadron 3, like on Hoth with the snow and the bump mapping textures, where even though it's a flat surface, they created like this 3D look where the snow looks fairly realistic. And then the original Xbox 360, not 360, the original Xbox, like that had, for instance, like Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb, which whatever system you can play it on, I highly recommend it. But I feel like the Xbox 360 version, I'm guessing the PC, I never really got into the PC version, because that was before a time that like PCs were really console centric, and you'd have to play it with some shitty Logitech controller that felt like hollow and cheap. I still have one to this day. I guess they last a long time. But yeah, like when you played the PlayStation 2 version, everything had like this flat look. And the Xbox 360, the original Xbox, now that we have Xbox One, it's so easy to say the Xbox 360 is the first one. But the original Xbox, like the textures were sharper, but then you'd like go and see a telescope or a mirror, or look at the guns, and they had like this normal map, like really realistic metallic look to them, and that looked really cool. And the PlayStation 2 wasn't capable of this, and this game was just so optimized for computers at the time. There weren't a lot of games that were like as optimized as this, except maybe the games made by like id Software. I feel like they were pretty well optimized, but a lot of games were like, if you didn't have the best graphics card, you weren't going to be able to play this game whatsoever. I think that most games that ran on the Quake Arena 3 engine, examples of those would be Call of Duty, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, Quake 3 Arena, like those, Medal of Honor, Allied Assault. Like those games were pretty optimized, but they were kind of flat. But this game did cool little things. It added bump mapping here and there, but not throughout the whole game, where just everything just ran smooth, even if you had like a slow ass computer, so everybody could enjoy the experience. But it's just the music and everything in this game like started up at the right times. Like usually it was quiet. The world's interesting. It's like 1984, probably what we're gonna experience, our grandkids will experience at some point. It's just interesting. Nothing's fully explained, but it's like a world you really want to explore, and you just see things happening in the background. I actually recorded like the whole beginning of this game, but I felt like this video is going to be way too long, and why would I want to ruin the story? And this game's been recorded 500 times, but probably more than that by different people. But I really wanted to have my take on it, and this was just a game that, like, when I played, like a really good movie, I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I was so inspired. This was like one of the first times I literally felt like games and art have finally met each other. Like, to this day, like, I don't think I've played a first person shooter that's this long and has this good of pacing. There's like never a dull moment, and once things start to feel similar, or like you're doing the same things, it like switches it up. Like this game is just so well designed, and it took forever to come out. Like I don't know if we'll ever get Half-Life 3, but between Half-Life 1 and 2, that took forever. I don't know how many years, but people were like, I don't even know if this game is going to come out. Like, and nobody heard anything about it until right before it was about to come out. But it's crazy, the physics in this game, the puzzles in this game. Like, this is probably the only game I ever played at the time, and I probably haven't played too many now, that you figured out puzzles the way you would in real life. Like, if you couldn't get up a ledge, right, you would do what you would do in real life. You would go over there to pick up boxes and stack them on top of each other and make something to climb on, climb out the window. Like if there's a pulley system, you would pick up things and put it in this area, like a bathtub or whatever, and like create weight to make the pulley system like pull up a door you needed to get through. There was just all these cool little touches. The physics, there's nothing like it. Like you could break these pieces of wood and break them into smaller parts. It ran so well, and the story was so interesting because it was so different. Like that guy that just like charged you, like they were bad guys in the first game, and now they're suddenly helping you out. It was just like, I played Half-Life 1, but this is a strange world because you didn't know when Half-Life 1 really took place. You were just a guy going to work one day and everything went wrong. So this is the first time you saw the outside of the Half-Life world, and it was so interesting, and there's so many different parts, and the graphics are so good. And eventually this game came out on the original Xbox, which is pretty crazy if you think about it, because even though this game was made to like run on all systems, like maybe the Xbox seemed like it was a little bit underpowered. I know it had a lot of load times, and the textures were a little bit simplified. I think that 360 version of the orange box is a port of that version. I actually beat the orange box version. I never beat the original Xbox version, but I played it. But it definitely looked downgraded, like it was set to like the lowest settings. And then I don't know, like the 360 orange box kind of looks like medium to high settings, but not the highest settings, and everything's a little bit zoomed in. The PlayStation 3 version, I personally have not experienced it, but I only played the PlayStation 3 version on first Half-Life, because there's Half-Life Episode 1, Half-Life Episode 2. I heard Episode 2 has a lot of slowdown in it, so I don't know. So, everything's kind of more, the field of view's like zoomed in, so the gun's like closer. Playing this in 1080p is a little bit difficult for me. Me being colorblind, that thing's hard to see as it is, and it's tiny. I'm playing at 1080p, which I don't even know if they had that resolution, or at least I couldn't play it in 1080p back then because I didn't have a monitor that could have a resolution that high. But yeah, like, and I didn't know anybody that had a widescreen monitor for that matter, but they constantly, the interesting about the Source engine is they constantly update it. It's hard to believe that Titanfall 2 actually runs on the same engine that this game does. It's just they continuously like update it so it looks modern. Will we ever get Half-Life 3? I don't know. I doubt it. Like, I heard that they might be coming out for Left 4 Dead 3, and I'm like, what? Everybody wants Half-Life 3. Like, I'm at the point where it's like, I don't care if the original people make it or not. They must have an outline or something. I just want to see the story end. It's like if there was like a movie with a cliffhanger, right? And they didn't make enough in the box office to finish the ending, so you have no idea like what happens. That's kind of where Half-Life is right now. You don't know how the story ends, and it's really frustrating hearing that they're making Left 4 Dead 3. Like, possibly, I heard it's like a rumor or whatever, but this game's so good. I can understand that the original people that worked on it for the most part aren't really involved anymore, so maybe it would be a different game, but and I'm sure there's a lot of fear that maybe if they make the game it's not going to be as good as Half-Life 2, and there's a good chance it won't be, but it doesn't mean they can't make a competent game. I and a friend were talking about who would make the best Half-Life sequel, and I think we came down to probably, out of all the modern developers, if Valve didn't want to work on it anymore, they could give like all their assets or anything they worked on with Half-Life 3. And it could be the worst game ever. It's just like Duke Nukem. I personally like Duke Nukem forever, but I know a lot of people don't. But I think it's a fine game. That's another game that kind of ends on a cliffhanger. But Gearbox said that they didn't buy the license just to make one game, so we'll see. But I don't know, with Battleborn being such an epic failure, I'd like to see Brothers in Arms finally get an ending too as well, but I'd like them to finish at least Duke Nukem's storyline. But the same thing with Half-Life 3. I just want to see it completed, and me and my friend kind of discussed that. Out of all the companies, we kind of came to an agreement that if Valve ever outsourced it, we pretty much decided that Arcane Studios would probably be the best suited. And if you're not familiar with Arcane Studios, they made the Dishonored games and the recent Prey game that feels a lot like Half-Life, except a little bit harder. And I feel like they would be the most suited for this type of game. And, you know, I think so many people, because it's so available, I wish they would actually re-release it on newer systems, because I have a feeling that there's a whole generation that hasn't played this game, and it still holds up well. This is one of those games that, like, no matter how long it's been, and you'll have to excuse me, I'm playing terrible because I'm a console gamer and I haven't really played this game with this gun zoomed out. I've been used to playing the console versions for so long. It's such a different experience, and I haven't played this part for a while, so I don't remember it. Even though it's my favorite PC game, I don't know it by heart. I've beaten it like 3 or 4 times on different systems, including the PC or whatever, but this is like the first time I've actually played like a PC game for real, and I don't even know. It must be a few years. I bought BioShock Infinite before they came out with the remastered collection on PlayStation 4, and I just tried it out, but that's the last time I did it, and that was like 3 years ago, and I didn't really play that game for real either. So you'll have to forgive me that I'm used to playing with a mouse and keyboard, and I'm sure this game's gonna look juddery once they take out all the frames. Plus I was using capture software, so hopefully everything comes out good. But see, this is just like a puzzle, kind of, where you just push the things out of the way. There's nothing like illogical. Like pretty much anything, and look, you can take a barrel, and a barrel work just as good as you running into those little monsters that suck you up like retractable fly tape, and they'll take those and pick them up. So pretty much anything you could think of that would work in real life pretty much works in this game to a reasonable level, and there's not a lot of games that do that now, and that was definitely unheard of. And just the style of this game just works so well, and I just gush about this game, and every time that I play it on any system, I don't want to stop till the end. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of Half-Life Episode 1. This is crazy. I've only been in Half-Life 2. So my goal is, because they had a Steam sale, I think it was like, I got Half-Life 2 I got the whole orange box for $1.99. I'm so glad I looked because last week it was like $20, and I always wanted to do a video of the PC version because the PC version has so many memories of my first decent PC that I paid for myself, and experiencing this for the first time and actually playing a game that I would consider art and all this stuff. And I know this game's been covered a billion times, especially with Garrett's mod, but I don't really like Half-Life Episode 1. It almost feels like a fan-made game, like where they just like litter enemies and stuff like that. My friend says it gets better, and even though Half-Life Episode 2 looks awesome, I know there's no Half-Life Episode 3, so I know I'm going to be left wanting to play Half-Life Episode 3, and B, I don't want to play Episode 2 until I finish Episode 1, so I feel like I'm going to go back and finish this game on PC like I originally did back in the day. Plus, I would like to get back into using the keyboard at least competently as much as I am with a controller. I know I'll never be super good, but I want to at least get to back to the level that maybe I was or close to it. And this is just, what better game than to play your favorite one? This game just holds up so well. Like, if they made a PlayStation 4 version of this, I would not hesitate to buy it. And I think that would be good for people who don't play PC games and are curious, because they could finally get PC settings. They could make 4K for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 Pro. They could do a lot of extra stuff with the mods, maybe update the engine a little bit. A lot of little things that they could do to make people happy. And maybe it'll gain interest for Half-Life 3, although I know that's like a guaranteed moneymaker. But anyway, I just wanted to share some stories about this game that everybody's mostly played, or most people have played. And if you haven't, I definitely recommend playing it on any system. Thank you so much. I hope you're all doing well. I'm sorry that I'm continuously sick. I wish it wasn't that way, but I hope you're all doing well. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.